to all the members of IEEE Kerala section and to all the participants today. Thank you for having me. So without much ado, let's get into the discussion on legal awareness for women. So I'm trying to share the screen, which seems to be impossible at this particular point. I'm really
What is
sorry.
the issue you are facing while sharing the screen?
I'm not able to. I mean, I've done this before, but let me try once more.
Yeah.
Okay, share. Is the
Yeah, we
screen
can see.
visible now?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, that's great. That's perfect. So that was an ominous slide to show it first. So uh, again, welcome to Legal Awareness for Women. So essentially, the discussion will center around basic legal awareness in terms of criminal matters, employment, and what other recourses you have, etc. So I've structured it in such a way that we'll first talk about employment, then we'll talk about uh, employment-related protection-based or social welfare-based laws, and we'll discuss other laws related to matrimony, and then we'll talk about workplace issues, protection in workplace, and then a few miscellaneous things that I thought would be interesting for you to know. Um, I, I have also some slides on contact points or places you can register your complaints with, etc. So yes, so we'll just start with an understanding of what is the issue with respect to legal awareness and women. Now we need to understand that women are not the most secure in terms of be it uh, secure in terms of legal protection or a knowledge of legal protection. They're not aware of this venues that is available to them, and in most circumstances we see that women are the most protected, yes, the most violated or most isolated people in the society. If you look at, I've given you some statistics on what this is the Indian statistics, what is happening in India. So based on the statistics that we have provided to the UN and also from the various bodies that conduct statistics, India has faces one of the most violent forms of assault against women in forms of like physical or sexual intimate partner, and also with respect to non-partner members as well in terms of sexual violence. So there is no official statistics available for non-partner sexual violence. We also face 27.3% of child marriage and a gender inequality of 125. So when we say there is a gender inequality status of 125, this index takes into consideration employment, empowerment, and also an ability. Let me just mute my phone. Yes. So and also in terms of scope of development into consideration. As such, gender inequality index places us at India in 125th rank. There is a lot of not only violence in terms of physical abuse, but also verbal, emotional abuse against women, and also setbacks that women face because they are not aware of a lot of laws that can actually work in their benefit, not only in the context of home or the matrimonial home, but also in the context of an employment or in the context of a job workspace as such. Now, basically, there are two aspects that comes into mind where there is specific protection for women in terms of employment. One is the wages aspect of wages or remuneration, and the other is the aspect of maternity benefits. Now, I want you to understand that before I go there, I want all of you to know that our Indian Constitution protects the interests of women as a part of fundamental rights and enables the government to make laws and legislative structure to protect the needs of women and children. And it is also a mandate on the states to ensure that they ensure equal wages to women and equal wages to men and women alike. And it is a mandate that the that is imposed on the state by the constitution itself. It's non justiciable. That means you cannot go to court to enforce this against the state. But however, the state has the minimum wages laws in place to protect, to ensure that we do not have disparity in wages based on gender in India. So the Minimum Wages Act is the one that protects women um, in terms of getting equal pay. If there is an issue with if with wages, or if your employer is not paying you the same wage as your male counterpart, you can take it up with the concerned labor officers or labor commissionerate as is available in your state. So the structure of these bodies change with respect to state. There's a lot of change in structure. In Kerala, we have the labor officers, we have the labor commissionerate, which will be the first place that you contact in terms of a wage disparity with you and your male counterpart. And from there, you can take the matter up to even the labor court, or even higher courts like the High Court or the Supreme Court, based on the situation that you are in. And if this has been in fact a violation, I mean the Supreme Court, in terms if it has been a violation of your fundamental right, and there's three courts based on the outcome that you get from the courts below. The first instance always remains the labor officer or the labor commissionerate. Next is the maternity benefit. So women are charged with the natural duty of um, or the biological duty of giving birth to the next generation. As such, maternity benefits are part and parcel of our employment rights. So this is not only applicable to government bodies, it is also applicable to private employers as well. Now, maternity benefits again is associated with the legislation, the Maternity Benefits Act. So it gives you specific dates, that almost 12 weeks of maternity benefits, in terms not only for proper delivery, but also for women who are adopting children. There is in situations where there is more than two children, there is a restriction in terms of maternity benefits, but even that has been relaxed over time. So in case of maternity benefit related issues, you can approach the concerned labor office if at all you're not you're not being given those benefits, or the labor court. And from there to any other body that you think, if at all the judgment that you've received is not fair, you can take it up to the concerned bodies, concerned courts above. So having said that, said these two are the most important aspects of, not necessarily the most important, but very important things that come to your mind, the first things that come to your mind when you connect women and employment. Another thing that you will see is also the POSH Act, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Against Women in Workplaces Act. We will see that shortly after we discuss domestic violence and other criminal aspects of legal protection that women have in terms of, legal protection that women have. So this is pretty much on employment, wages, and maternity benefits. But there are also other acts like the Factories Act, the Equal Wages Act. There is also the Equal Employment Opportunities Act. All those things does give protection to women, but these two aspects come up very patently when you discuss issues of employment in women. Next is the matrimonial aspect. What are the protections that you have as a woman in terms of marriage and then post marriage life? Well, we could say that the protection starts even pre-marriage, which is the Dowry Prohibition Act, and also the various aspects of the Indian Penal Code, the criminal law that protects women against harassment related to dowry. So, in the Dowry Prohibition Act holds that people who demand dowry and also people who give dowry can be prosecuted and punished by law. Now, if it is usually, crime works in the nature that if you've committed something, you have acted upon it, and you've created some sort of trouble for someone, that's when crime happens. It's always an act against society. So in this, when you talk about, and that is why the state prosecutes a social offense, in any offense. In this case, dowry is a very personal matter, at the same time a societal issue, a bane to the society as such. Therefore, this is strongly opposed by law. We do see this practice happening all over the country. It's not specific to one area alone, or to one community, or to one religion alone. This is practiced pan India. Now, when you talk about dowry prohibition, it's not only the act of giving dowry, but you should know the act of asking for dowry is also prohibited by this particular legislation. Even demanding dowry can lead you to be prosecuted. If somebody complains regarding this, then you can be prosecuted for seeking or demanding dowry from the bride's or the girl's family. Now, there has been judicial pronouncement extending the scope of the Dowry Prohibition Act on a number of occasions, talking about gifts and how gifts translate into becoming dowry as well. uh, with that, once we say that, let's say that the people do not respond to the Prohibition Act, people do not report this, you get married, and then there is harassment at your matrimonial home with respect to bringing more dowry into the home, or to the matrimonial home, or there's harassment from your husband, your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your sister-in-law, etc. That is where the Domestic Violence Act comes into play. It is a very strong legislation that protects women in their matrimonial home. Not only their matrimonial home, of course, but this is applicable against the husband, his family members as well. Again, we see the extension of the scope of Domestic Violence Act over the time, just like what happened in the Dowry Prohibition Act, because simply because it's not only limited to singular events, because the perpetrators can be of different nature and kind. Now, the extreme version of violence for dowry would be the dowry death and related cruelty associated with it. It need not be dowry death as such. It can be harassment for dowry. That will happen very well fall within the scope of domestic violence and cruelty. The recourse would be to approach the immediate police station, and police immediately react to these things, take action to these things. So approaching the nearest police station also works in the favor. That's the first step in terms of domestic violence and cruelty. Dowry death, of course, is the most unfortunate event that should happen to a woman as a result of dowry or dowry related violence. There are laws in place, but I don't think that will be under our control. It's mostly under the control of the prosecution, which is the state. The police investigates the matter, and initially all the guilt will be placed on the matrimonial family, the family that the woman is married into. But that's the case scenario. It happens. It continues to happen. However, the legal recourse available there is definitely litigation and matters which is a state matter, which the state will take care of. But in terms of cruelty or domestic violence, the first place that you can definitely go to is the police station. If not the police station, you can definitely move on to the Women's Commission. There is a national commission for women. Each state has its own bench of Women's Commission, which will take cognizance of such matters of violence, abuse, any matter related to women and women's interests come within the scope of the Women's Commission. These are the first two recourses that any woman can have in terms of violence faced or abuse faced at home. There have been instances where the Human Rights Commission has also been involved in such matters as well. But anyways, the first point of contact in almost all cases, and generally what people practice, is to approach the police or the Women's Commission. What the next bit, it's not something that is actually legal awareness, but this is something that we do not understand that will fall within the scope of domestic violence. When you talk about domestic violence, it is not just physically beating up a person. It can be sexual too, it can be emotional, it can be economic, and it can be verbal. Now, economic, that is where you connect dowry related violence and domestic violence. Sexual, because this is the only recourse you have in terms of sexual abuse that a woman faces from the husband, or from the husband in terms of protection against sexual violence. Because in India, the criminal law, which is the Indian Penal Code, do not criminalize marital rape. However, we have recourse under the Domestic Violence Act for sexual violences committed against a woman too. So this is an addition to the physical violence that may be met out to women. And there's emotional, which is again tied up with verbal. So you can verbally abuse the person. This verbal abuse can lead to emotional abuse as well. It can lead to mental trauma, mental health issues that can challenge the capability of an individual. So all that falls here. All that falls here, and all is possible. All possible of verbal abuse falls here. And economic, as I told you, it falls within the scope of dowry as well, or taking a forceful taking of salary, all those things comes here. Now, when I've mentioned the word gaslighting. Gaslighting is the most prominent form of violence which people do not realize. Unfortunately, people do not realize, and women being a women generally ignore these things. That's what I feel. Gaslighting is simply deflecting of guilt or deflecting of blame, manipulation, comparison, using your own story or your own grief or your own pain against you. And that's mostly done by the partner, the husband involved. Very rarely by gaslighting is usually associated with the partner, with the husband, or in certain cases women as well. Not certain cases, women are capable of doing that too. Not that we are not, but the domestic violence specifically caters to women. It's not gender neutral, it caters to women. So gaslighting, it's manipulation. It's, let's say that you've had an issue, and that your husband is assaulting you, and where once the anger has died down, he does apologize, but at the end of the time, trying in the form of apologizing convinces you that the abuse or the slap or the hit or the punch was because of your action, not because of me. You've drove me to the point of doing this. That's why it's your problem. You should not have done that. So deflecting the blame onto the victim, that is gaslighting. Manipulating the victim into believing there is something wrong with you is gaslighting. So it's the most common form of abuse that people do not identify as, and people shrug it off. But that's not how it should be. It should be considered as one of the most severe forms of the most, let's say, silent killers of all, which is gaslighting. It destroys you emotionally. Now, domestic violence, there are so many helpline numbers in Kerala. You will see the Maneta helpline number. There is a police control room. That's the general helpline for all districts. There is the alert control crime stopper number, which is 1090. And there is a women helpline of domestic abuse, which is 181. One of the biggest problems that women face in terms of domestic violence or sexual violence is that of trying to recover from that trauma is it's very difficult. In such instances, it's very important that we open ourselves up to all possible ventures of getting ourselves help in the form of counselors, therapists, etc. The rape laws in India also does provide you with protection. In the aspect of while talking about domestic violence, before I go into the other aspects of it, let me tell you there are quite a few things involved here as well, in terms of rape laws or protection against sexual assault. The Indian crime law, which is Indian Penal Code, have been amended to include stalking, voyeurism, acid attacks, etc., to fall within the scope of sexual assault against a woman. Sorry, not acid attack is not considered sexual assault, but stalking, voyeurism, all those things are considered crimes now, and women can report these incidents and get redressal from the police in such matters. So the scope of violence against women has increased. Similarly, has the scope of laws in terms of protecting women as well. So that you see in mostly Bollywood. No, it's not just Bollywood. You see this phenomena in almost every language or any kind of Tollywood, Collywood, Mollywood movies. That the relentless pursuing of a girl for into a relationship, which is essentially stalking, which we have normalized or regularized into courting, or the honest interest of a man and a woman. It's actually stalking. All those things have been made an offense for the protection of women. There is also the case of, this is in addition to the domestic violence, the rape laws that you have in place. In all these instances, the first point of report should be the police station. They will be the first point of help for you in case you are not in a position to take these help, which you should. This is the first course. This is the best course of action. Some people also take the help of NGOs. They contact NGOs who can put you in touch with counselors and then take the legal action forward. In India, we have something called um, the OneStop Center. If you look at the slide, you can see to the right hand top corner, we have the Sakhi One Stop Center. This is the one that we have in Trivandrum. This is a pan India movement this is a one-stop center for any kind of violation or abuse or issue that a woman faces, be it in at home, be it at workplaces, be it in the community, from the family, or in private or public spaces, etc. So this is a one-stop center that you have to redress all your concerns as a woman. Now, and this extends to cyber activities as well. So, if at all you're not comfortable going to police stations, these are annexes to police stations as such, but you can make use of this one-stop center, which will help you in all ways possible to help you in resolving your issue and also taking this forward. Now, the National Commission for Women has a number for domestic violence, or alerting for domestic violence on women. This that number is shared on the screen. If you're interested, please do take this down. You can share it amongst your friends too. There are NGOs that help in catering to women. I've added the one of the one very good NGO that is working in this sector, which is Bodhini. Please note, I do not work with them, but I've observed that they do good work, and that's why I've selected their number and also their mail. And this is actually their logo. This was a movement, this small promotion, not promotion, a small campaign they had in terms of their activities. That's why I've chosen that particular. There are many other entities like that. There's a Sneha Trust which works from Bombay. You will have a lot of pan-India movements. There is Sakhi that works out, if I'm not mistaken, from Delhi. There are quite a lot of NGOs that work specifically for domestic violence. Bodhini here specifically works for cyber crimes against women and children. So you have these opportunities which are not restricted to a typical police center, police station, but a one-stop center for women. You can use the latest technology, which is WhatsApp mode, to alert domestic violence issues. You can resort to help, taking help from NGOs. A complaint made by an NGO on your behalf is also considered valid. That can be in front of the police station, police officers, or for the in the one-stop center. That's also considered valid and taken into consideration. Now, I wanted to bring to your attention the cybercrime aspect. I've been myself a beneficiary of a cybercrime portal that we've had. This was quite a few years ago. I had made a complaint, and I've got great help from them. So I can vouch for it personally that the crime cell in Kerala functions phenomenally very well. They have a synchronized portal now for the entire country, so which is the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. If you go into there, this is the place where you log in. I've chosen the page where you file a complaint. So when you click the file a complaint page, you directly go into states and all those details, and you have to give them your details and register your complaint with them. And that's how it gets assigned to specific cells. Now, this is then it is also possible for you to report a crime anonymously. That's also possible. So, in this slide, there is this option. You can see it next to home, report report a women and child related crime. Once you click there, it will show you as file a complaint or file a complaint anonymously. So you can choose in what mode you want to file a complaint. So cybercrime is not just restricted to a fake identity or fake identity or somebody hacking your phone. It can also be cyber stalking, cyber bullying. It can be anything that is related, hacking into your mail ID. All those things can come within the scope of a cyber crime, and they'll help you in taking your complaint forward. It is not necessary that you take this in a get very confused with the process. The cybercrime cell itself help you in understanding the process. They'll guide you through it too. So cybercrime is not only against women but also against children, especially pornographic content that can also be reported in these channels. Sorry, through these portals. Uh, Kerala has something called a cyber dome, which with a specific they have an agenda to track and prohibit or like limit spread of child pornographic content. If at all you are in Kerala, and if at all you want to report an issue, you can go into the Cyberdome page and you will have a number of options wherein you can report matters either through Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, or through email. So all of those content is given there. You can directly file them either through the national portal or through here if you are in Kerala. Now, there is an initiative by the government called the 112 app. It's a pan India based single number, 112, which is for an it's an emergency response system. If you download this app, you can report matters immediately. There is a power button, which if at all you click 3 times, it will activate a panic call. And there is also a shout feature for women and children that gets a volunteer in the vicinity what alert immediately, and the volunteers will come to your help as soon as immediately. So there are volunteers within this and within the scope of this scheme as well, which is the emergency response support system. This is an initiative, as you can see, this is an initiative using the Nirbhaya funds. However, this is a very useful application. I feel that every woman should have, women should have on her phone. So these are the various recourses that you can have, various places in which you can reach out and ask for help. From there, I want to take you to sexual harassment at workplace, and I kept it for the last because there are specific channels to get this through into a redressal mode or a grievance redressal mode. First is this is an act that came in 2013. This happened after a landmark decision in the Vishakha case, wherein the Supreme Court asked or directed the government to make a law to protect women in her workplace. And as such, we have the Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act, which is lovingly called the POSH Act. Now, what forms under falls within the scope of sexual harassment at workplace? There is sexual advances. It can be physical or it can be verbal as well. It can be in the form of a comment made or a sexually colored comment made, a remark made about you. And then there can be a demand or a request for sexual favors, and also sharing of pornographic content with you or showing pornographic content to you can amount to sexual harassment at workplace. When these instances happen, according to the law, you will have to report it to your concerned internal committee, which is the Internal Complaints Committee. So every establishment which has more than 10 workers will have to have an internal complaints committee, to which such complaints should go within 3 months of the incident. If at all you're not able to file such a complaint in 3 months, you can do so for the next 3 months too, but you'll have to show cause as to why you are not able to bring the complaint in the first place. So once that is done, they'll conduct an investigation, they'll submit a report, and based on that, an action will be taken. In case there is not there is not many, not as much as 10 worksmen, then you can take it to the local committee. In such cases, when the district local committee will take the investigation forward, and the magistrate will look into the matter. Now, so the Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act makes things more easier for, it makes it mandatory for workplaces to have this committee. As much as this can be considered as an inconvenience to many, this is also one way to ensure that the workplace is a safe space for women to work at. And to create awareness amongst the employees themselves that certain acts can be considered sexually charged or sexually colored, or certain words or certain things said and spoken can amount to sexual harassment, and for which the act encourages the employers to conduct sexual harassment workshops with their employees to ensure that they understand what sexual harassment at a workplace can look like or be like. Um, uh, as part of university protocol, we do have it on a yearly basis. I'm not sure as to what the scope of workshops are with your workplace, but if at all your workplace do not have such a cell, please do request them to create such a cell, and also to conduct regular workshops to sensitize your fellow employees to, or your fellow workmen to understand what sexual harassment amounts to, what is in a workplace. So it can take various forms and shapes, and to understand it is also difficult. There is also a lack of understanding amongst people regarding what will amount to sexual harassment, and workshops of such nature can help solve this issue. And it is also within your power to report this matter to the concerned authority, so that you can get, especially within your company, to get this particular committee formed, and also to conduct such sexual harassment workshops to prevent such events in your workplace. So now we come to the miscellaneous aspect of it, legal aid. So as per the constitution, the government is supposed to provide free legal aid to the public, people who are not able to afford legal aid. And as such, women and children have been identified as valid beneficiaries for the same. So that means if at all you need representation, you can approach the said legal aid clinic and they will help you in getting represented or whatever is the help that you need in any given matter. Then regarding arrest is a very interesting aspect because the way you see it in movies, women get arrested at midnight. Um, and they can be arrested at any point of the day and time, but that is not so. The Supreme Court has made it very clear, and the police follow it to the T right now, that women cannot be arrested in the absence of a woman police officer. They cannot be arrested before sunrise or after sunset. So essentially, you cannot be arrested from 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. Depending on sunrise and sunset in your place of residence, and then that you need the presence of a women police officer to be arrested. Other rules, if at all you are to be arrested after sunset or before sunrise, the police needs permission or approval from the magistrate in order to make such an arrest. So it is important for you to know these things. I hope, God forbid, anybody should go through these situations. But arrest is also an interesting area that women are not aware of, and what you see in movies are not actually true or not actually right in terms of legal content or legal matters. So that's pretty much that I wanted to discuss with you. I've discussed quite a lot of things and a lot of areas too. Given the chance and more time, I could have explained each and every bit of it. Unfortunately, lack of time and other engagements make me wrap up this entire discussion in such a very quick note. Thank you for patiently listening to me. If I'm not mistaken, we have a Q&A session. So, um, so I think I can have those questions. But before that, I strongly urge all of you to consider the fact that despite the severity or despite the nature in which the police may be depicted, there is a lot of recourse that starts with the police. And I suggest that you embrace these venues that you have and make maximum use of the opportunities that is provided to you by the legal system in order for your protection. The one-stop center can be the best recourse to most issues. If you are not in a position to approach them, you can definitely approach the Women's Commission, who is always there to support you. Two more things that I wanted to bring to your attention was the fact that a lot of matters that will, if at all, it falls within your fundamental rights of equality, if you're not being treated equally or are given not protected equally, then you get a chance to take the matter to the Supreme Court. It is also your fundamental right to, especially if it only in case of state action, if at all your fundamental right has been violated, you have a fundamental right to take it to the Supreme Court of India. And please note that the judiciary is always open to women empowerment and an egalitarian approach to women community as such. So I told you the Constitution protects women and children specifically, and gives the right on the state to make laws and other frameworks to protect women and children. And such systems we have in place, the efficient use of it will make sure that the efficient use will ensure awareness and also bring about confidence in the system for women, especially for women, to approach such systems. Just to tell you what the judicial approach is towards women, recently an adultery law within the crimes, within IPC was considered to be unconstitutional because women were considered as chattel or property of man. And as such, that law was taken away. There is so much into that law because the details are quite fascinating and will be quite contrary to what we would want. But it was an unfair law which considered women as property or chattel to men, and saying exactly this, the court held that particular law unconstitutional. So, or that particular provision unconstitutional. So please note that even the judiciary's approach is pro-women, our legal system is pro-women. However, there have been misuses of the system, and that can be detrimental to us, the community as such. So diligent and efficient use of the system can bring about a lot of changes in the society. So yes, thank you. I think we have a question in the chat box. Okay.
Let me ask the first question.
Yes, please.
Mm, like you told about the gaslighting and the emotional violence aspect, but how do we collect the evidence to prove the situation?
It's difficult. The evidence in such matters are difficult because it happens within private quarters, and it is not that the court is unaware of it. But there will be definitely something to show in terms of verbal violence, that something that you had to do, or something that was said, or called, or transpired through, or recordings of these things. What I've seen is the generation that's post maybe very technologically savvy community started recording quite a lot of stuff that has gone in their favor. Having evidence or collecting evidence is a difficult task in personal private matters, but the court understands the situation as well. So judgments usually take this into considerations too. Any more doubt? I mean, any more questions? Sorry, doubts. That's the hangover of classes. I end up asking my students, "Do you have any doubts?" I'm really sorry. Do you have any more questions? I guess nothing more. But I remember when we were discussing about the particular lecture, Shruti did ask me about something very peculiar regarding rent and how to maintain rent and rent documents. One key thing about rent or renting or leasing is that you need to have an agreement, a proper written agreement, a legal document in your hand. And also ensure that you pay the rent. If at all you're paying the rent, you take a receipt. If you do not take a receipt, then ensure that you leave a trail for it. Like give checks. In regular checks can be given as in terms instead of cash, or bank transfer can be a good option too. Payment in cash becomes very difficult without a receipt to prove that you are a tenant, or that you've paid the rent as such. So the basic thing would be to have a lease, to have an agreement, maintain that agreement as such, and renew the agreement when the term is over. There is a very bad practice when people don't renew the agreement, but I strongly suggest renew it as and when the term ends for this rent agreement, and ensure that you are a legally valid tenant, and also pay your rent in such a way that you leave a trail, you leave evidence as to your payment, and avoid cash payments. Ensure that you pay it using a check or bank transfers, and that is very easy right now. So I kind of think this is the I mean, I think that we do not have any more questions.
It's a general question. You
Yes,
mentioned
yes,
that regarding the receipt, no?
yes.
If you are doing any kind of online, it's not related to women. If you are making any company to do a software for a firm or do, and they will always provide we will do the online transaction, and they will provide only any invoice based on the e-invoice only, no? Is that a valid one for any legal purpose?
There is an email trail for your service provided. It will have validity,
Okay,
and you
thank
have
you.
transferred the amount, right? The bank will also reflect it. So
Okay, I have a doubt whether we have to make any kind of physical receipt for the code to be valid in the court.
this is the best thing about technology. There's so many things have become online. Everything is available online. The physical receipt you can get from a bank. All those things. There are regulations from the Evidence Act regarding what kind of how in what format such receipts should be given. But even e-receipts and all those things are considered valid evidence, provided you submit it in the format it should be given. The lawyers know that. There's nothing much to
Okay,
worry about it actually.
thank you.
I hope there are no more questions to be asked. So, thank you so much, ma'am, for guiding us through these very relevant topics, which is very necessary for a woman to know in these times. And thank you so much for this empowering session.
Thank you. Thank you a lot for having me.
For delivering the vote of thanks, now I invite Ms. Shruti. Over to you, Shruti.
Thank you, Meghna. Actually, I'm very glad to get the opportunity to deliver the vote of thanks to a very good friend of mine. Thank you, Maneka, for making it a one-point reference for all our legal issues. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
touching upon all the relevant areas, compiling the contacts, portals, everything. I really hope more people reach out to this webinar once it's uploaded in our Young Professional YouTube channel. I thank all the participants for joining despite the difficulties. Thank you, one and all. Finally, I thank the entire IEEE team for making this event happen. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful night.